You didn't know who I was, Simone said, placing her business card on the marble counter with quiet finality. But you should have treated me like I mattered anyway. And with that, the $2.7 billion deal vanished, not in anger, but in silence sharpened by truth. She stepped through the revolving doors of the Belmont Royale Hotel with a kind of quiet confidence that needed no announcement. The lobby awash in soft golden light, reflecting off marble floors and crystal chandeliers, momentarily paused. In a place built to impress, she did not arrive to be impressed. Simone Caldwell, 46, COO of Horizon Capital Strategies, walked not as a guest but as a test. Clad in a steel gray pantsuit that framed her tall, commanding silhouette, she moved with the kind of grace that didn't beg for attention, but commanded it anyway. In one hand, she carried a slim silver clutch. Inside was a platinum card that required no introduction, exclusive invitation only, and reserved for those whose names dictated the flow of billions. And still none of that would matter the moment her skin tone met the assumptions of the man behind the desk. Logan Brenner, early 30s, hair perfectly parted posture, polished by years of hospitality training, stood at the reception desk like it was a throne. He glanced up the moment Simone approached, his eyes scanning her head to toe in a rhythm that was almost rehearsed. Suit, heels, black, woman, alone. His smile flickered with a shade of politeness, too practiced to be sincere. "Good afternoon," he said, voice smooth but hollow. "Welcome to the Belmont Royale. Do you have a reservation with us?" Simone didn't flinch. "Yes." Simone Caldwell, Presidential Suite, 3 nights. She pulled up the confirmation on her phone and gently placed the platinum card on the counter beside it. The card made a distinct clink, a soft but unmistakable sound that usually drew respect. Logan didn't even glance at the screen. Instead, his eyes caught the card and held it just a little too long. He gave a small, dismissive smirk. "Oh, one of those. They hand these out now." The words landed with a soft cruelty. A nearby couple looked up. One of them chuckled under their breath. Simone said nothing. She didn't need to. She'd heard the tone 100 times before, too refined to be blatant, too casual to be called out. That was the art of exclusion at the top tier of luxury, making someone feel out of place without ever raising your voice. Logan tapped away at his keyboard. "Unfortunately, it seems the suite hasn't been confirmed in the system. We do have a deluxe room available on the 7th floor. Still very nice. I'm sure you'll find it comfortable." Simone's expression didn't change. "My confirmation includes the presidential suite." Logan offered a smile that didn't quite reach his eyes. "It must be a glitch. Happens sometimes." His voice dropped a notch lower, especially with promotional bookings. There it was again, the unspoken insinuation that she didn't belong here, that the card, the confirmation, even her presence was some kind of mistake. Simone retrieved her card with a steady hand. "I'll take the room," she said coolly. "For now." Her voice was silk over steel. Logan, oblivious, handed over the key card as if doing her a favor. The elevator ride was silent, save for the subtle jazz humming through the speaker. On the 7th floor, the deluxe room was exactly what she expected, tasteful, but not what she booked. The view faced a wall. No espresso machine, no welcome package, and definitely no sense of consideration. She sat at the sleek walnut desk, opened her laptop, and began a file, Internal Observation, Belmont Royale, Horizon Capital Compliance Audit. The title was already typed. She only had to add the first entry, VIP reservation, downgraded at check-in. Front desk tone dismissive. Centurion card mocked in front of guests. The audit had begun. Over the next 24 hours, Simone moved through the hotel with the precision of someone who had done this before. She requested lounge access and was told politely that her keycard didn't include it, even though the executive package she booked did. A white couple with standard rooms walked in minutes later and were welcomed with mimosas. At breakfast, she asked for a table by the window. The hostess glanced at her, then at the 3 empty tables in that section, and said, "That area is reserved for VIPs only." She was escorted to a table near the kitchen entrance. No one raised their voice. No one said the words out loud. But every glance, every smile that didn't quite meet the eyes, every pause before speaking, was a note in a quiet symphony of exclusion. At the gym, her room key failed to scan. A young staffer glanced at it, then at her. "Ma'am, are you sure you're a guest here?" Behind her, a white man in gym shorts walked in without even slowing down. He nodded at the same staffer and was let in without a word. Simone didn't protest. She didn't need to. Every interaction was documented. Each violation recorded with time, date, location, and staff details was added to her report. She knew how this worked. The game wasn't played in explosions, but in shadows, and her job was to shine a light. By evening, her report had grown to 8 pages. She sipped herbal tea in her room and reviewed the timeline. Check-in humiliation, lounge denial, restaurant seating bias, gym access rejection, 4 distinct service points, 4 consistent patterns. She didn't need confirmation. The pattern was the confirmation. She opened a small black case from her luggage. Inside were 3 business cards. One of them had no logo, no tagline. Just her name, Simone Caldwell, Chief Operating Officer, Horizon Capital Strategies, Global Ethics Division. She placed it on the desk beside her laptop. Not as a weapon, as a statement. She leaned back in her chair and looked out the narrow window. The city of Chicago sprawled below, glittering, moving, unaware. In boardrooms across town, Bellamont's senior executives had no idea who they were hosting. They saw a guest, a woman, a black woman, a harmless nobody. They didn't see the gatekeeper to a $2.7 billion expansion deal that could redefine their global market. But they would. Tomorrow. Morning light filtered through the narrow hotel window, catching the edge of Simone Caldwell's steel gray suitcase, still untouched by bell service. She had slept but not deeply, her mind cataloging each microaggression like entries in a spreadsheet. There were no surprises in what had occurred, only confirmation. The Bellamont Royale hadn't failed a guest. It had failed a test it didn't even know it was taking. Simone rose early, dressed in a minimalist black sheath dress, simple flats, and a pearl bracelet, deliberately unassuming. The intention was clear. She wanted no armor, no signals of wealth or power. Just a woman in a hotel being watched for all the wrong reasons. Her hair was pulled back in a neat bun, her face fresh, her posture calm. A quiet storm disguised as civility. At 7:30 a.m., she stepped into the elevator and headed down for breakfast. This time, she didn't ask for a table by the window. She simply handed over her room number and let the silence play its part. The hostess, a young woman with a name tag that read Brianna, hesitated when she saw the number. Her smile dipped for a fraction of a second, then returned with an edge too sharp to be sincere. Right this way, she said, leading Simone past half-empty tables by the window to a cramped two-top near the kitchen entrance. No apology, no explanation. Just the kind of slight that doesn't show up on paper, but lingers like smoke. As Simone sipped her coffee, she watched. A white couple entered 5 minutes later, no reservation, no visible credentials, and were seated immediately near the windows. She clicked the side button on her smartwatch, subtly activating the recording function. 10 seconds. Time-stamped. The file uploaded automatically to a secure folder labeled Bellamont Chan Audit. After breakfast, Simone walked past the concierge desk where 2 employees were speaking in low tones. One of them, a silver-haired man in his 40s, glanced at her, then leaned toward his colleague and said, just loud enough for Simone to hear, "Another diversity PR stunt, I guess." He didn't know she was listening. Or maybe he did. But what he couldn't know was that those words, unrecorded, unguarded, and unmistakably real, would carry more weight than any formal complaint. Simone didn't pause. She didn't look back. She walked to the elevators, hands at her sides, heart steady, head clear. This wasn't just a bad experience. It was a documented pattern, a system, and today that system would see itself in the mirror. She returned to her room, opened her laptop, and entered new data points: concierge comment suggestive of racial tokenism, restaurant staff seating discrimination observed, comparison behavior toward other guests confirmed. From her small travel case, she removed a flash drive and uploaded the video files. She double-checked every file name, every log entry, every time-stamped clip. This wasn't just for her. It was for the legal team, for the ethics board, for the investment committee. By 10:00 a.m., she stood in front of the full-length mirror, reviewing not her appearance but her presence. No one would be able to say she was emotional, or unprofessional, or confrontational, because none of it was about her tone. It was about their behavior. She stepped into the elevator again, descending into the same lobby where Logan Brenner had smirked at her just the day before. He was there now, standing behind the counter with that same polished posture, tapping at his keyboard like the gatekeeper of luxury. Simone approached. He looked up. For a moment, there was no recognition. Then it hit him to face the card, the woman he had laughed off as a glitch. He straightened. "Good morning, ma'am," he said. "Can I assist you?" "Already did," Simone said calmly. She pulled a sleek black card from her clutch, set it gently on the counter. No raised voice. No dramatic gestures. Just 6 words printed in silver. Simone Caldwell, Chief Operating Officer, Horizon Capital Strategies, Global Ethics Division. Logan's eyes dropped to the card, and for the first time the practiced confidence fell from his face. She didn't wait. "Yesterday, you downgraded my reservation. You questioned my card. This morning I was denied access to the lounge, the gym. And again I was seated in the back of a half-empty restaurant. Your staff has mocked me, doubted me, and whispered assumptions about why I'm here. I documented every moment." Logan opened his mouth, then closed it again. "I don't explain," Simone said. "I'm not here for an apology. I'm here to inform you that the $2.7 billion global expansion deal between Horizon Capital and your parent company has been officially withdrawn. Our report has already been sent to our legal team, the Corporate Ethics Board, and your investors." The blood drained from Logan's face. A woman standing behind Simone gasped. A businessman by the fireplace lowered his newspaper. Another guest discreetly raised a phone to begin filming. Had there been one moment of professional treatment, Simone continued, one basic act of respect, this outcome might have been different. But instead, you saw my skin. You heard my voice. And you decided I didn't belong. She took the card back, slid it into her clutch, and turned to leave. But before she walked away, she looked over her shoulder. "You didn't know who I was, but you should have treated me like I mattered anyway." The video clip, just under 50 seconds, hit Twitter by 11:12 a.m., posted by a guest who had been standing behind her in the lobby. Within the first hour, it was reposted over 500,000 times. The hashtags Washa Platinum Power, Joshua Caldwell Effect, and Sharn's Silent Audit soared to the top of trending lists. CNN, MSNBC, and Bloomberg all picked it up by midday. What struck viewers wasn't the confrontation, it was the composure. A black woman standing alone at a luxury hotel desk, stating facts, not flinching, not folding, not needing to scream. And behind her, a white man wilting under the weight of his own assumptions. By early afternoon, Bellamont Royale's PR office issued a brief statement about reviewing the incident, but it was already too late. The internet had declared its verdict. Horizon Capital confirmed the deal's cancellation with a formal press release at 2:45 p.m., attaching a summary titled The Caldwell Report. It outlined 14 specific observations of systemic bias, complete with screenshots, video stills, and a behavioral risk assessment that labeled Bellamont Royale as structurally discriminatory at multiple customer touchpoints. Within hours, other guests began sharing their own experiences. A black attorney tweeted, "I stayed there last year. Was asked twice if I was sure I had the right room." A former employee posted, "We were told not to seat certain guests by the windows, no joke." The floodgates opened, and at the center of it all was a single woman with a business card and a backbone of steel. Simone didn't attend any interviews. She didn't post any statements. She didn't need to. The truth had already been spoken clearly, precisely, and without apology. Her job wasn't to be a symbol. It was to hold the mirror up. And now the world was watching what the Bellamont Royale saw when it looked at itself. Logan Brenner didn't remember walking away from the front desk. His legs had moved, his body reacting before his mind caught up. All he could hear was the echo of Simone Caldwell's voice, calm, unwavering, final. He had spent years perfecting the art of hospitality, or at least what he believed it to be polished manners, wrapped around quiet prejudice. But now, standing in the back hallway near the service elevator, his world tilted. On the lobby floor, guests whispered, staff avoided eye contact, and one man near the fireplace began filming again, murmuring, "This is going to be everywhere." And it was. Within 48 minutes, the video of Simone's confrontation had been posted online. By the end of the hour, it had nearly 2 million views. By the end of the day, it had fractured an empire. While social media platforms ignited with hashtags like Washa Platinum Power and Caldwell Effect, news outlets scrambled to verify the identity of the woman in the video. They didn't have to wait long. Horizon Capital Strategies released a statement at 2:45 p.m., confirming the cancellation of a $2.7 billion global expansion deal with Bellamont Holdings. Attached to that announcement was a 61-page document titled The Caldwell Report, detailing 14 separate instances of racially biased service across 5 departments at the Bellamont Royale flagship location. Timestamps, screenshots, audio transcripts, staff names, policy violations, a list of recommendations marked in bold red text: restructure, internal training, reassign management, initiate third-party audits. The report was cold, factual, and devastating. By the time Bellamont's executive board held an emergency conference call, Horizon's legal department had already notified major institutional investors. Within hours, a cascade of cancellations began. A European hospitality consortium suspended its partnership. 2 PR firms cut ties. A high-profile luxury travel agency removed Bellamont Properties from its VIP itinerary. Wall Street reacted within a day. Bellamont Holdings stock fell 17% by market close. 24 hours later, it had dropped another 7%. The company had lost $890 million in valuation in less than 48 hours, not because of a scandal, but because of an audit that spoke in evidence, not outrage. Internally, Bellamont spiraled. The regional director of the Midwest Division, a man named Charles Halberd, was placed on indefinite leave by 10:30 the next morning. Logan Brenner was fired by noon. There was no meeting, no discussion, just a human resources manager handing him a manila envelope and asking for his name tag, key card, and access badge. His photo was removed from the employee portal. His login credentials were locked out of the system. He didn't get to clear out his locker. In the following days, former employees began stepping forward anonymously. One submitted a screenshot of an internal memo instructing staff to visually assess VIP credibility at check-in. Another described being reprimanded for allowing certain guests to access the premium lounge too freely. A third, a black front desk agent who had worked at Belmont Royale 2 years prior, posted on Reddit, "I once saw Logan escort a black woman to the elevators after asking if she was in the right building." I complained. Nothing changed. Those posts, once anonymous cries in the void, now had a face to attach them to Simone Caldwell. But while the Bellamont brand burned across headlines, Simone stayed silent. She gave no interviews. She declined a speaking request from Forbes. She refused appearances on every major morning show. She didn't even update her LinkedIn. Within the offices of Horizon Capital, she was back at her desk by Monday, quietly reviewing a new acquisition deal in South Korea. Her phone buzzed hourly with messages from journalists, activists, university deans. She answered none. To her, the message had already been delivered. On Thursday, Ernst & Young announced a global hospitality audit initiative inspired directly by the Caldwell Report. They named it the Caldwell Standard. Its purpose to evaluate bias at the ground level of luxury hospitality, the front desk, the concierge stand, the restaurant hostess station. The next day, Columbia Business School released a new case study titled The Bellamont Breakdown, integrating the story into its corporate ethics and risk management curriculum. Harvard followed within the week. Across the industry, over 35 hotel groups announced internal ethics reviews. Some acted out of panic, others out of principle, a few out of fear of becoming the next viral cautionary tale. But change came, and it came quickly. Words like unconscious bias training and guest profiling audits entered the mainstream. Travelers began sharing their experiences with hashtags like Chakijur My Lobby Moment and Majrai was seen. For the first time, the silent architecture of exclusion was being dismantled, not by protest, not by policy, but by truth. And through it all, Simone remained composed, unmoved by the frenzy around her. Her office at Horizon was modest. No accolades, no plaques, just a clean walnut desk, a shelf of financial reports, and one black and white photograph in a frame, her grandfather, a Pullman porter in the 1940s, standing tall in his pressed uniform. He had once been refused entrance to a hotel lounge in Kansas City because a guest complained about a colored man folding the linen napkins. Simone grew up with that story. It shaped her, not with bitterness, but with clarity. One afternoon, a junior analyst knocked on her office door. She was an intern from Howard University, quiet, brilliant, and visibly nervous. "Ms. Caldwell," she said, "thank you for what you did, for showing us you don't have to raise your voice to be heard." Simone looked up, gave a soft smile, and replied, "You just have to make sure they're listening." That was all. She didn't want fame. She didn't want applause. What she wanted was systemic change. And she got it not by screaming, not by shaming, but by presenting the mirror. The Belliment Royale hadn't just lost a deal. It had lost its foundation. Because beneath the chandeliers and champagne and white glove branding, it had built itself on a hierarchy that had no place in the world Simone was helping to shape. In the months that followed, Simone continued to audit quietly, invest boldly, and lead with a calm that shook industries. She had no need for microphones. Her silence spoke loudly enough. The empire didn't fall in flames. It cracked quietly, slowly, irreversibly under the weight of one woman's presence. She never raised her voice. She just stood tall, and that was enough. In a world that often measures worth by appearance, position, or perception, the story of Simone Caldwell reminds us that true power doesn't need to be loud. It doesn't come wrapped in ego or retaliation. It comes dressed in quiet conviction, a clear sense of self, and the courage to stand firm when others expect you to shrink. Simone didn't raise her voice. She didn't make a scene. She simply paid attention, documented the truth, and let facts speak louder than anger. Through her calm, she exposed an entire system built on subtle exclusion and false assumptions. What the hotel staff saw as just another guest, just another moment, turned out to be a reckoning they never expected. The lesson here is clear. Never underestimate the strength of restraint. There's incredible dignity in composure and immense force in a silent but strategic response. You don't always need to shout to be heard. Sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is to be so undeniably prepared that the system has no choice but to face its own reflection. For those who have ever felt unseen, undervalued, or quietly pushed aside, this story is for you. It's a reminder that your presence has weight, that the truth, when delivered with clarity and confidence, can move mountains, and that injustice, no matter how sophisticated or polished, will always crumble under the pressure of accountability. To every viewer who stayed with us through Simone's journey, thank you. Thank you for watching, for reflecting, and for letting stories like this open hearts and conversations. At US Daily Story, we believe that real change begins with awareness, and that awareness often starts with one person refusing to stay silent. If you've ever been in a situation where you were judged unfairly or dismissed for who you are, know this: you are not alone. And your silence, your calm, your courage can still be heard if you use it with purpose. Please share this story with someone who needs encouragement today. And if it moved you, inspired you, or made you pause, consider liking, subscribing, and joining us for more instructive stories that shine a light on the unseen and unspoken moments that shape our world. From the team at US Daily Story, we thank you deeply for your time and support. See you in the next story.